Okay, geweldig. It's not going to go straight to YouTube because I'm not able to do that. Okay, so let us see where we are up to. I believe that we are up to the bottom of the Gimel of the base. Let me just go back to the Gimel of the base.
Yosy, fix the screen.
Okay, 1 second.
This meeting is being whatever. Got it.
Okay, now I'm not sure what you could see. Can you see the Gemara?
I see the Gemara, but then this. Okay, it's good now.
Yeah, I think you have to do that locally. Okay, geweldig. So let's see the Gemara. Let me get that to the bottom of the base. Oh, sorry, this is Amar Aleph base. Okay. We are at the bottom of the base, and yesterday we had a Mishnah that was quoting only Reb Elazar Yaakov, and it said that Reb Elazar Yaakov taught us two halachas. The first halacha Reb Elazar Yaakov taught us is that when you try to pressure somebody to come to your house and eat, that is midrash, and you don't even need to be Montaner at all. And the second halacha that the Mishnah taught us, the Elazar Yaakov taught us, was the halacha of Kol Nidre, like we learned yesterday. But
very unclear.
It's unclear?
Very unclear.
Wait 1 second. Let me change the mic that I'm using. 1 second. Is it better now?
Much better.
Okay, geweldig. Okay, so fragt the Gemara, the Gemara has a shaila. Vigi Rabbanon Alei Rabbi Ben Yaakov Alei. That Rabbi Ben Yaakov told us that when you're inviting somebody, you make a neder, it's called Nidr Zeruzin. Do the Rabbanon agree with that? Because the first Mishnah in the parak is a Stam Mishnah. The second Mishnah in the parak quotes Dafka B'Shem Ben Yaakov. So is there a machlokes about it? And if you're going to say that there's a machlokes, do we paskin like Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov in this shaila? So let's see what the Heilig Aran says. The Heilig Aran says, why couldn't we clear such a shaila? Mishum the Dilma, at kan like Ami Rabbanon in the Druzeres and Hava. What do the Rabbanon agree is Zerzin Elab Moicher Velekach? In a case where it's a Moicher and Lekach, so the Moicher promised not to give it away for less than $100, and Lekach promised not to pay more than $50. There, the Mishnah tells us Shneim Roitzin B'Shloshim Dinar. They really both, even the Shas, when they made the nether, they didn't really expect to get $100 for it. Lekach didn't really expect to get it for $50. They both knew that they were going to make the deal for $75. So therefore, it was Ein PM V'Liba Meshavim. There, everybody would agree that that's a niduzerson and has no validity. But when someone is being mother's friend, so that his friend should eat with him, maybe there, Itaka meant it exactly as he said it, and means that he doesn't want to nether. That he doesn't want to nether. So therefore, do the Rabbanon agree with Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov? Zok the Gemara Toshma. Let's see if we give me the raya. It's not. We learned in a brayta. If someone tells his friend, now we'll get on to DAF Chaf Dalar Amar Aleph. Koinim she'eni nehanalach im i'at noitel lebincha urshachiten ushtech kaviyah shel yain. Someone very much wants to give his friend's son a gift. So he tells his friend, you must take this gift and give it to your son on behalf of me. And if you don't want to do that, then I'm making myself an isser that I'm never allowed to have enough from you. I will not have enough from you if you refuse to take this enough from me. If you refuse to take this gift for yourself. So the Mishnah says, what is halacha in such a case? So this is a new hybrid type of situation. It needs a heter. It needs a heter. But a heter is so obvious that you don't need to be shoyal by a chacham. Why is it so obvious? Why don't I need a chacham? Because you can tell him, Klum amarta el b'shul kaidi. Why are you pushing so hard to make me accept this gift on behalf of my son? Because you want to respect me. Zehu chvaiti. Not accepting it is my covet. So in essence, the neder wasn't foul because the neder was made on a t'nai that I should get covered. I got covered anyway. So Zok Gemara, let's make a deal. Taima the Omer Zel Kvaiti. The only reason why we'll say that the neder is not valid, or you could be martyred for yourself, is because you're saying Zel Kvaiti. Halavachi, but if it wasn't for that Pesach, so to speak, neder would be a good neder. So let's think. Mani, who is talking in this Mishnah that we just quoted? If we're quoting Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, why do I need the Tanya of Zechvaidi? Regardless, it's not a neder. Like we say in Yiddish, it's fangzich l'shon, it's loshach l'shos. It has no shaykhs. There's neder zeres in how. It's clear that the only reason why he made that neder was to encourage his friend to accept the gift. So it must be the Rabbanah. And you see the Rabbanah hold the need of Pesach, which means the fact that it's neder zeresin wouldn't work. So the Rabbanah obviously hold that it's not neder zeresin, but in this particular case, since he could say zeu chavoidi, that's why the neder won't be chal. But really, it's not called neder zeresin. El shemami no poligi Rabbanan alei. You have a raya that the Rabbanan argue on Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. We still don't know who the halacha is like, but we know that someone asked this Mishnah that we just quoted must argue in Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov and must hold that this is neder zeresin. Let's see the Heilig around. Why do I become a chubed? Because you want to push a gift on me. It shows that you're machshav me because you want to give me a gift. So that makes me look very good. Sure, it's a big compliment for me if you want to give me a gift, but it's even a bigger compliment for me if you're trying to give me a gift and I'm refusing to accept it. So, Adrabah, you got what you wanted. Since you got what you wanted, there shouldn't be any Isra no foul. Beautiful.
Yeah, Yaakov said that the only way if he make it that's not going to be chal, if he says before that everything that I say is not going to be valid. What was
we're not. That's a completely different case. You're talking about Moshe Maidah. Moshe Maidah is Kol Nidri.
So what was the Rabbi Yaakov Shittu? He says
if any time you make a neder because you're trying to get somebody to come to your house, that's not a neder at all, without anything.
So then what says in this brayz is the same thing.
No, this brayz says you need the taina. You need the taina. You need the recipient to say zeu kvaidi. What if the recipient didn't say zeu kvaidi? Then it's going to be a neder. According to Elazar ben Yaakov, even if the recipient never said zeu kvaidi, it's still not going to be a neder.
Okay, good.
Good. So Zok the Gemara, maybe Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov agrees that in this particular case it's not neder zeres. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. If it's Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, why don't you say there's no neder at all? The Teretz says this is different because umoider Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov bahai in neder hava. In this case, where you want to force me to take, and I don't want to take, there it makes sense that it should be neder zeresin. That it's not neder zeresin. And even Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov would agree to neder would be chal. The Amar lei, because he's going to tell him, loy kal ba'ano, I'm not a dog. The mis hanino minoch v'loy mis hanis minoi. You're making me feel like a dog. You're giving me a no, and you don't want to take a no from me.
That's serious. That's not just ninja zerizim. That's a real time. Let's see the Hela Garab. The question is, why would there be a taina? I want you to accept this gift because I obviously got something from you. So if you don't take this gift from me, I'm going to make a nether to ask for myself to have enough from you. Why? Because again, I must have had enough from you with something, and I don't want to feel like an osnitzer. I don't want to feel like a dog who only takes and doesn't give. So in Mela, I'm serious with this nether. It's not an interseries. That's why you need a Pesach of it is covered even if he doesn't take it. But in the case of Rebbe Lezer and Yaakov, there it's Tamakezim inviting you to a meal. There's no svar of love kala. Why not? It's only possible for someone to really be serious about the nether because he doesn't want to be a dog. What was the nether? I said, if you don't accept this gift, I will no longer have hana from you. So that's in sync. That makes sense. Since I don't want to be a dog, taking and not giving, therefore, if you don't take, I'm never going to have hana from you. I'm answering your hana on me. Maybe this is not a nedarim. Maybe this noider is that serious. Maybe this guy is that serious that I will no longer take any hana from you unless you accept this very significant gift of korach and shochitin and shtei chavi yishalayit. The lav kabul, because I'm not a dog. Abel b'masnisin, but in the Mishnah in Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov's case, you can't say that he meant that. Heichi shaykh l'meimer hachi. V'hamazamin eina yoyser alav nichsei hamazumin. The other Rabbi, nechazavu yoyser l'mazumin im lo yikabel b'menu gamachshav anozu. I'm saying if you don't come to my house, I'm not going to give you any more hana. If you don't come to my house, then you're not allowed to have enough from me. That goes the opposite direction of me not wanting to take from you for free. Here, I'm indicating I don't want to take from you for free, some gift he wants to give me. So therefore, you better take this gift from me. And if you don't take this gift from me, I'm never going to have enough from you. Everything stimms. I don't want to be an osnitzer. But when I'm saying if you don't come to my house, you're not allowed enough from me, that doesn't fit into that theme. So that's one svara Zoktaran, why you don't have the svara of lav kal ba'ana in Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov's case of Midrash Erzim. But Zoktaran, there's another svara. In the case of Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov, I'm just inviting you to a meal. Big deal. Not such a big deal. Here it doesn't pass to say that if you don't take this meal from me, I feel like a kelov. It's not a big deal. But here I'm giving him a huge gift. Of course, obviously I must have got something really big from you. It must be that he got something really good from his friend, because no one gives such an elaborate, lavish gift unless he received something in return. So there he feels guilty. Don't give me that toiva that you gave me, that unnamed toiva, without me being able to reciprocate. Lav kalbana. I wouldn't be giving you such a big matana if you wouldn't have given me something phenomenal before. Hilchach, lav kalbana. In the case of Rebbe Lezer ben Yaakov, loy muchach David inish. Loy muchach. David inish. The hakos kaver. It's like avagav the loy karmidi. People have guests over, even though the person who you invite didn't do you a favor. It's common. So Mamela, that's a svara why it shouldn't be the time of lav kalba, and it's a nidrus eris. These two different shatim are going to have an impact later on in the subject. So just to review, you only say lav kalbana if my neder is consistent with that. That my neder is saying, if you don't take this enough from me, I will not have enough from you. But if my neder is saying, if you don't take this enough from me, you can't have enough from me. That's not a case of lav kalbana. And B is when there's a huge gift involved. That's where there's a svara of lav kalbana. But if it's a small trivial matter, there's no svara of lav kalbana. Okay, so the Gemara is going to move on to the next attempt to bring a right. Zok to Gemara. Where are we up to?
After this, I want to tell you a good story about Lav Kalban.
Okay, Tashma. Zok to Hela Gemara. I may not have enough from you. So this is the opposite. I'm saying if I'm twisting your arm to give my son a gift. And I'm telling you, if you don't give my son a gift, then you may not have hana from me. Meir Omer, it's going to be also for him to have hana until he actually gives the gift. And the Chacham say, this person can also be matter his own nether. He can say, I made a nether that you may not have enough for me if you don't give me this gift. And then I can say, I feel it's as if I got it. So therefore, you will not be also enough. But once again,
Yosy,
yes.
when you say if someone can matter his own nether, how does he do that exactly?
So what he's saying is, I said that you may not have enough for me if you don't give me this gift. I'm telling you that I'm accepting as if I got that gift. So it's as if you fulfilled the Tanakh.
So there's no actual
Heter Chacham.
or heter anything.
There's no Heter Chacham. It virtually creates a scenario that the trigger for the Isra Hana did not happen.
Uh-huh. So okay. So there's no like ceremony or anything he's got to do. Does not have to go out Tars Nedarim by himself.
That's right. Because all he has to say is Hareini Ki'ilu Hiskavalti.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see the head of the Gemara. Let's see the head of the Gemara. Hareini Ki'ilu Hiskavalti. It's a pretty complicated thing how this magic of Hareini Ki'ilu Hiskavalti works. So Mefarish for Perik Misha Achsoi, the Gemara explains in Perik Misha Achsoi as follows. Tahainu Taima. How does this work? Mishum de l'arvacha lideich. Why did I make this nether? If you don't give my son A, then it's also for you to have enough from me. So all I wanted is to benefit from you. The Halayitra. By saying I already kill Kabalti, I no longer need that benefit. So therefore, we consider it like the nether wasn't triggered. So the question is, this is like a magic, Alice in Wonderland fantasy. It's as if I got it, but I didn't get it. So how does this work? And how liberal can we be in the application of this make-believe world? Zok Duran, there's a couple of conditions we have to focus on. So first of all, who did I insist on getting the gift? I want you to give the gift to my sons. Otherwise, it'll be also not. So how can I say Hareini Kilis Kabalti? I'm not my son. The nether was that my son has to get it. Zok Tahil Garan, very important. The Dafka Kishahabonim Smuchim Al Shulchan. This Hareini Kilis Kabalti that the father says is only good if he was the one who benefited from the fact that his son got a gift, meaning his son was still being fully supported by him. So therefore, by me saying I got the gift, as if it's the son getting the gift because it's the same pocketbook. I could say that it was all about the whole nether that I made that forces you to give my son a gift is because I wanted to benefit. Because when you give my son a gift, I benefit. Yes.
The Gemara should have said son-in-law, not son.
I hear it. And the lights, I'm saying you don't need it. Only in such a case can you say this. What if these children were not being supported? They're independent. So then their getting a gift has nothing to do with the father. So they have a ibcha. Well, if I said you have to give my son a gift and my son is independent of me, well, then I'm not having enough for my own benefit. I'm having enough for my children's benefit. If you don't benefit my children, it's also for you to have enough for me. So then, you know who would have to say Hareinu Ki'ilu Hiskabalti? The son would have to say it. V'chol shomer heim Hareinu Ki'ilu Hiskabalnu. That's Yitira Nether. V'lo Omer Avkein ein b'dvar klum. So that's one very important halacha. Did anybody ever hear a word, the following word? The word is as follows. Gushank.
Geshank means a prayer.
A Geshank means a present. Okay, that's a Yiddish word. So Geshank. 1 second. So it's in a Yiddish word that makes sense. Geshank is a present. So I'll tell you a very interesting story. The Vilna Gaon, we know, put himself into Galus. He concealed his greatness and he went into Galus. So he once was staying in someone's home, and it was obvious from the Vilna Gaon's Haga that he was a Gadol B'Torah. And there are stories about his travels, very interesting stories. So this particular story is his host realized that he was a very, very chashuv Yid. So his host said, I'd like to ask you a question. So the Vilna says, no problem, ask me a question. And he says, I have this old chumash from Friedrich Kedoris, I got it from Gedolim. And if you look at the puzzle where it says, V'yas Hashem eshnei amaris hagedolim, it's Amar Agadol. I don't know the Lashon puzzle, because Amar Agadol, Limshal B'yoyim, it's Amar Akot Limshal B'layla. It says there in the margin, in a handwritten note, it says Goshank. And I don't know what it means. So the Vilna Gaon, without even skipping a beat, said, it's pashut what that means. It means Gadol v'saymech al shulchan aviv nikra patam. And what he was saying is that the moon, whoever wrote that Agah wrote that even though the moon was great, but since it only gets its light from the sun, it reflects the sunlight from the sun, that's called a cotton. So the Vilna Gaon, without even skipping a beat, chap that geshank, it stems very good with the Yiddish word geshank. Geshank means you're getting a present. So it stems perfectly, Chaim. I didn't even chap when I said the Maisa how perfectly geshank fits in Yiddish as well. So Gadol v'samech al shulchan aviv nikra cotton. Geshank. So that's a famous story with the Vilna Gaon. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. So the Ran said there's one condition of what is considered when you can say Arenis Kavalnu. That's only if you're benefiting. You can't say Arenis Kilis Kavalti when it's somebody else's benefit. And now we're going to get into the next condition from the Rashi, which is very important because it tells us you can't just make up as if things happen. The Chazal Barash Bazal, the Dafka Bekiya Maisa Shaykh Lememar Harenu Kilis Kavalti. If you didn't give me money, and we want to consider it as if you did give me money, there it works. Why? The Kivan, Tafilu Hayim Kabel Mimenu, if he would have actually given me the gift, I couldn't very easily turn around and give it right back to you. So therefore, I could say Hareini Kiili is Kavalti. Therefore, Af Mayachshub Yachaloimer Harelu Kiilu his Kavalti, Vichsarticha. It's as if I accepted it and then I returned it to you. If I'm going to give it back anyway, so why go through the motions of you passing it to me and me passing it back to you? Rather, we'll say Harenu Ki'ilu is Kabbalah. That's where it works. I'm sorry?
What does matrasa mean?
I don't know. I don't know what matrasa means, but it means giving the merchandise back and forth. So it could be a mattress. If I want to give you a mattress and you're giving it back to me, but what's the mattress for nothing? No, that's not what it means. It's talking about a shloida. Why do you have to give the shloida back and forth? But I don't know the exact types of matrasa.
It says,
but the Gemara, the Gemara uses the lashon. So Avol Bittel Maisa, if you have the Gemara, you can look it up and tell us. Avol Bittel Maisa, but if it's a question of that he didn't do a Maisa that he needs to do to fulfill the T'nai, K'ag Goyim. So Amar Nichse Asur Nalacha, all my nechashim should be also to you. Im Telech L'Makom Toini. If you go to this and this place, if you go to New York, all my nechashim should be also to you. There, if you went to New York, I can't say Hareini like you didn't go to New York. There it doesn't work. To tell him Harehu Ki'ilu Loi Halchos. Right? That's nonsense. So Dr. Rajba, it only works when you're giving me something that I could easily give back. Only there will you say the concept of Hareini Ki'ilu His Kavalti. But Ika Man the Polik, Zoktaran, but there is somebody who argues in the Rajma, Shafilu bin Yizel Yachaloimer came. You could say that as well. She'oizet Tanai Atzmai le'amru mitchila ela lahashrum ritzonai toyerot shaloi elech. Again, when I said you shouldn't go to New York, the Tanai basically means I want you to do my will. Now that I don't care if you went or not, it's still considered like my ratzon was done. So the nether really is do my ratzon. At that point, the ratzon was you shouldn't go to New York. Now my ratzon changed, but you still have fulfilled my ratzon. So that's the machlokes Rashba and the other Rishonim. Okay, let's see the Gemara.
Rashi says, "Hafich matraz alom lehanois shnai martzifim shaloif masum shuva."
Oh, Martov is like a saddlebag. That right, that's right. I remember. Martov is a saddlebag that has schoide in it. Right. So why should you
switch around? Both are the same.
And he was talking about moving one from why should you switch it around to the right side to the left side to the right side. Okay, now I remember. Shkoyach. Okay, so that's right. We just did. I should have remembered it. Dr. Helen more of
One block before the Shul Shvius.
Yeah.
So into the Shul Shvius.
Mit alles vergessen nach der Shul Shvius. That's right. Because there's no Gemara. Lo'olam Rabbi ben Yaakov. So at first it was a shmami no, pliger abundantly. So you see that it is a nether, and you need a hectare of 80 kilo hiskabalti. So it's fair. It proves that we have a bar pluto to Rabbi ben Yaakov. So Gemara no, lo'olam Rabbi ben Yaakov. You can say this is also Rabbi ben Yaakov, and there's a special reason here as well why we don't say that it's nidr zeres. Rabbi ben Yaakov behind the nidr habit. That's a real nether. It's not just nidr zeres. Oh, I'm sorry, I went back. Well, if you go back over here, time of Amarei kills Kabbalti, Allah Vachi Nether. So Gemara, man, here was when Yaakov nidr zeres now. Allah Rabban, please. It's more loyal. Oilam Rabbi ben Yaakov. Umoider Rabbi behind the nidr habit. Here, Rabbi ben Yaakov is moider that it's a nether. Should do Amarei lav malkada. What do you think I am? I'm a king. What do I look like? A liberal government who gives out freebies the whole day? Doesn't work that way. You gotta work for a living. Lav malkada. The Mehanina law that I'm just going to give you and be behind you, and you're not going to give me anything back. It's not a good dimion compared to a liberal government, because a liberal government takes way more than it gives. So I'm talking about a real melech who's native and doesn't expect anything in return. Amarle Makashisha Bere the Rav Chisda Rabashi Nakaraya. Tashma Nidre Einzin. What are Nidre Einzin? Hidiru Chaveroi Shayechalos. I made a nether because I wanted to force someone to eat by me. You must eat by me. Come eat by me. And if you don't eat by me, then it's going to be author for you to have hanoah from me. And what happens? V'chala, and he became sick. Or chala b'noi, or his son became sick. Or shakfeinar, or there was a problem with transportation. So these are in Nidra Einstein because he really meant to be Mekayim at night so that there shouldn't be an Israel, but an Einstein happened. Dr. Gemara, but if it wasn't for the fact, it would be a nether. But isn't this a case of Nidra Zerizin when I'm just making a nether because I want to encourage you to come eat by me? So even on the Einstein, according to Rabbi ben Yaakov, it shouldn't be a nether. Mani, Rabbi ben Yaakov, Zerizin happened. So once again, you have a raya that he argues. The adre mizamna l'zamina. You think that the host is putting a nether on the guest? The host is saying, if you don't eat by me, you may not have a no from me. That's not the case. The case is loy l'zamina adre l'zamna. What happened was that someone was harassing you to be invited for Shabbos. I want you to invite me for Shabbos. Please invite me for Shabbos. And finally, the host says, okay, I'll ask him to invite you for this Friday night. So then the guest says, really? I want you to make a nether that if you don't have me this Friday night, that you may not have any hanoah for me. The Amarle, Mizamnis Livus Udaya. He said, invite me to your meal. Amarle in, okay, I'll invite you for Friday night. Nether Zalacha. Putting a nether on you that if you don't invite me, all my nechosher should be us to you. Vinodar, and the person made a nether. So this is not desertion. This is fakert. This is the guest being aggressive, trying to force a commitment out of the host. And then something happened that the host wasn't able to host the guest. that would fall under the category of Nidra Ensign, but it wouldn't fall under the category of Nidra Zeres.
So who shot manure, the guest or the host?
The host would be also to have a no from the guest if he wouldn't fulfill his nether to
Right,
have
even-
the guest.
Even if it's the guest that couldn't come, shot manure.
It doesn't make a difference who was the one that couldn't come. The fact is he didn't have him. But if it was an oidus that he couldn't have him, then it wouldn't trigger the nether. Zok the Gemara back to Tashma. Yes,
You don't need a tool.
correct. But the nether was chal, but it's a new concept of nidr oinst, but it's not nidr zeres. Tashma. Yes, there are kain Amar Blas Ben Yaakov. Not
Question.
only
Yosy,
yes,
so is there a nafkamina in the end if it's Nidri Yonason or Nidri Zirson?
if it's not chal, it makes no difference why it's not chal.
So at the end of the day, there's no difference.
Correct.
Okay, just okay.
Okay. So the Gemara says yes, Akin Amar Blas Ben Yaakov. So what was the first case of Rabbi Blas Ben Yaakov? The first case was I wanted you to come eat by me, so I made a nidr zerzin to encourage you to eat by me. If you don't come eat by me, it's going to be also for you to have enough from me. There, Rabbi Blas Ben Yaakov says that's nidr zerzin. The nether has no validity. But yes, Akin Amar Blas Ben Yaakov. Rabbi Blas Ben Yaakov even said a greater chiddush than the one that he said in the Mishnah, and he said, I'm making an isser for me to have enough from you. Im i'ata misarech etzli. If you don't become a guest by my house, v'toichel imi paskama, and you have to eat in my house a little bit of warm bread, v'tishta imi kois chaven, and drink with me a little kois of chaven. V'Allah hit with connector, and the other fellow didn't want to come. Af elu nidri zerison. This is also nidri zerison. So what is the difference between this case and the regular case of me wanting to have someone eat by me? Zok telegram. Yeser al kain. Amar Blas Ben Yaakov. Hi Damar Yeser al kain. Why is this a greater chiddush that this is nidri zerison over the regular case where he's inviting him for a meal? Zok telegram. Mishum dahacha. Af agav the shaykh lebemer. Lav kalbano. Here, it makes sense to say lav kalbano. Shereu oyser hanos hamazuman alatzman. What did I say? What I said was, if you don't, in the case of the Mishnah, I said, if you don't come to my house, you will not be able to have enough for me. There's no option to say lav kalbano. But in this case, I said, if you don't come to my house, I won't have enough from you. So now this setup lent itself well to a taina of lav kalbano. Because I'm saying if you don't come to me, I will not be able to have enough from you. So that's a stronger indication that this is not a nidr zerzin, this is a lav kalbana. And therefore, like we said earlier in the Gemara, normally Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov would be moida, but here we're saying, here this bride is saying that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is not moida. So the problem is we just said earlier in the Gemara about a first raya. Really, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov holds it's a good nether. It's not a desertion. Why? Because of lav kalbon. Here we want to say that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is saying you don't say lav kalbon. Zokt around l'fipir zeh chazinon pashta the mighty dachinon lo'el that we slugged up the raya earlier. That someone's arguing on Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, and we wanted to say that even Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is moided to the earlier brayso that Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov moided tolecha dikol meimer lav kalbano. You see from here there was the chuya ba'alma he lav kush to the milsa. You see from here that we said earlier that even Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov agrees that it's not nidner zerzin if we have a time of lav kalbano. You see quite clearly that the maskana of the Gemara is not that way, because the maskana of the Gemara brings the Yeser al Kain, where Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov doesn't say lav kalbano. Even in a case where he could have said lav kalbano, Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov is still saying that it's a nidre zerzin. So we're being closer from what we said earlier, because now we have a bride that seems to say beferish that even though this case is a candidate For Lav Kalbano, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says it's Nidri Zerzin. Now this is based on the pshat that we said that Lav Kalbano is because what determines whether or not you can say Kalbano is whether or not I'm telling you that you may not have enough from me, where you cannot say Lav Kalbano. But if I'm saying if you don't come to me, I won't have enough from you, that's a case of Lav Kalbano because I don't want to feel like I'm taking. But we had another pshat in when you could say Lav Kalbano and when not. That depending on how big the gift is. So we said earlier that if it's a really big gift, like core of chitin and chavush yayin, there you say Lav Kalbano. But if I'm just inviting you for a meal, which is trivial, then you don't say Lav Kalbano. So according to that pshat, will the pir shech hazin hashta the madechinu il tafilu b'leis ben Yaakov moide v'leich b'dikol nem Lav Kalbano dechui ba'amal Lav Kushma. That's the first pshat. Will idich pirusha the kasvinu il the time Lav Kalbano is mishum de mefalgina de matana maruba the matana muetes that when I want to give you a big gift, that shows that I owe you something. And I have a feeling of Lav Kalbano. So my neder is sincere. But I'm just inviting you for a meal. There you don't say Lav Kalbano. Hi yeser al kain garin hacha. So what is the yeser al kain over here? Lav mishum de lo chashina on the time of Lav Kalbano. We're not being closer from what we said before that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov agrees with Lav Kalbano. The hakiva and the matana mu'etesi. In this case, I'm also only inviting you for a meal. So once again, you cannot say Lav Kalbano. Why is this a bigger chiddush than what Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said in the Mishnah? What's the difference if I'm offering me on you or you on me, regardless? The whole gift, the discussion is only that I'm inviting you for a meal. So it doesn't pass all sort of Lav Kalbano. So why is it a yes or a kain? Why is it a bigger chiddush? Zaktiran, we should have spoken that the Chamina, even the miyachid, Lamar Paschama, because of common, DAF Kenodar, the land is a Rizabal. You might think, if I say, if you don't come to me for a meal, then I'm making another, that's the desertion. Because I don't really care so much, I'm not specific. But if I'm so specific, I didn't say come to me for a meal. I told you what the menu is. I want you to eat this, and I want you to eat that. So there, I'm much more serious because I'm being very specific in my invitation. Kamash Malan, Daf Elu Nidra Zerzin. Kamash Malan, that even this is considered Nidra Zerzin. Ulfizeh, Pirish, Ulfi Pirish, Akati Kaminon. At the end of the day, according to this pshat, then we never backed out from the Lav Kalbano. In fact, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov can still have Lav Kalbano. So basically, based on the two different pshatim of how you learn, when you could say Lav Kalbano, that would determine whether or not, at this point in the Gemara, are we backing away from that. But I'll call upon him, it says, how do you look at So you see that there's a machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan, because it's quoted Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and then he said, that's the biggest raya in the world. My So exactly what is Is it only on the Yeser al Kain, or is it even on his base halacha? Dr. Lav, wouldn't you agree that when it says it's not only referring to the Yeser al Kain, but it's going back on the whole mimer of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that even on his first halacha of Nidri Zerzin, and whenever you invite somebody for a meal and you try to encourage him with another, that's called Nidri Zerzin, there the Rabbanan are arguing. So the Gemara assumes that this is a raya that we have a machlokes of Eliezer ben Yaakov and the Rabbanan. My Hava law, which the Ran learns, who do we pass him like? Do we pass him like the Rabbanan, that it's not a Nidri Zerzin, or do we pass him like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that it is Nidri Zerzin? Tashma, Damar Puna, Allah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The Chinamar Rabbi Bar Abba, Allah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. So Allah Lamaisa, the Gemara is passing like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. When you invite somebody for a meal and he doesn't want to come, and you reside with a nether, that nether has no validity. Okay, let's do the Mishnah weiter.
There's no us from the Rambam, so it doesn't look like we pass in that. Yeah, we do.
The Ran goes through it in detail, but we're running a little late, so let me finish the DAF, and then I want to learn the Ran in Halacha, because depending on how you learn Pshat in Lav Kalbano, it'll make a big nafkamina what Halacha L'maitze is, because the Ran had two Pshatim. In one Pshat, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov holds of Lav Kalbano, and the other Pshat he doesn't. So that'll have an afternoon halacha. But first, let's do the Mishnah.
Which kind of dog? If it's a watchdog or a
I hear. Zot more nidra havon. Nidra havon means stam gedet shtusim. Omar, what if he said koinim? This kicker should be usher to me. In Meloyra isi b'derech hazeh koinim atrayim. If I didn't see millions of people walking by here, so that's not a neder at all. It's nonsense. And the Ram explains why is it nonsense, because it's an exaggeration, and that's how people speak. He might have seen a big crowd, even though he didn't see such a big crowd. It's an exaggeration, and people exaggerate. So we actually say he did see what he claimed he saw in his exaggerated assessment. And the second case is a different case. If I didn't see a snake that's the size of a huge beam, again, that's impossible that could have happened. That's not an exaggeration. That, Dr. Ram, is an outright lie. And why isn't it a good nether? Is the Ram is a big chiddush. We have to see it inside. I'll tell you outside, but we need to see it because it's a very big chiddush. It's because if, in fact, he meant to make a nether, he wouldn't have said, if I didn't see such a snake, because of course he didn't see such a snake. He just said, I want to make a nether. Well, the fact that he was told it in the snake shows that he doesn't want to make a nether. It's a very interesting chiddush. So let's see quickly the Ram. Nidre Havoy Amar Koinim and Loy Isi B'derech Hazek Koinim Mitzrayim, and the second nether was a Loy Isi Nochash Shekor Spesabad. Nearly the Tana Trey Gavli Nocha. There's two types of Nidre Havoy. Kad Neshayach V'Guzma Dainu Koinim Mitzrayim. One is something that he's exaggerating. The Ovid Inish, the Chichazi Inshi Tuva Gozim V'Amar Koinim Mitzrayim. It's normal for people to speak that way and to exaggerate. The Chad, and the second example that the Mishnah gave, Lo Shayach Be'Guzma, the Hainu Nochash Kekoris Beisabat. A Nochash that's like the size of a beam, and it doesn't really mean the size of the beam, it means the consistency of a beam. The Chimanim of Hashin Be'Gemara, and the Gemara we're going to explain, the Lo Nochash Godel Kamer, it doesn't mean a big snake, and a Toruf, a scratched up, I don't know what it means, I didn't get to the Gemara yet, but whatever the case of Torah, Lo Shayach L'Meimar, Derech Guzma, Toruf, Kekoris Beisabat, Shum Nachash Torah Klal. You cannot say that this was a guzma. So the second case of the Mishnah is an example of Nidra Avoy that's not a guzma. So what is it? Bashmin Tana, the Chitala is Isser Paris. The Chad Mahani, if you made a nether on Isser Paris and you linked it to one of these two items, either way, Nidra Bottle. The Chad Chad, and each case in the Mishnah has a separate reason. Why is that not a good nether? It makes sense to say that the pair shouldn't be also to Kushka Kamar, because in his warped mind of exaggeration, he's actually saying the truth. Kivin Shira Amra, he saw a huge oil, the other English, the Gozim. People do exaggerate that way. That's the first case. But the second case is a little different. That wouldn't be another either, but that's mitayim machrina zoktura. Now, the vadai shikra ka'amar, even though he's really saying a lie, when it comes to this case of the snake, you wouldn't even say it for derech guzma. Therefore, afilu hachi aperes mutarim. Still not another. Why? Mishum dam dinon leile daite. We assess his mind. He never had kavanah to make another and to answer the parish. Sheim Kain, if he wanted to make his parish answer, he could have done it so much more simply. He should have not have linked his issue to the Tnai. He should have just said, these pairs are usher to me. Even when he made this weird Tnai, the Tnai has no impact because it's not really a Tnai. A Tnai means it could go this way, it could go that way. It's going to depend on my Tnai. But here, the Tnai was never a Tnai to begin with. It's impossible to be saw that. Someone who's just saying, I want pairs to be usher to me, and someone saying the pairs should be usher to me if the sky is purple, basically, even the sky can be purple, or if hell freezes over, right? So that's something that's ridiculous. So that's as if I'm saying, without a doubt, I'm doing it without a tonight. It must be shalei lesser pairs. His intention is not to make an Isser Paris here. And he just wants to speak nonsense.
Isn't there a pasuk? Isn't there a pasuk that describes how the Ananei HaKavod protected Klal Yisrael from these types of snakes? Or what do you mean?
I don't know what this Nachash Taruf. I didn't look up. I don't know precisely what that means.
It means sure. It was like a striped.
Oh, that's stripes. So there's no such thing. I saw a snake that's stripes that everybody knows never ever happens. There's no such thing. It's like saying I saw a flying elephant, right? So it's clear that he.
What do you mean stripes? I don't see Nachash Kekairas Beis Habad.
Look on the next umit on the bottom. Look in Asher, whatever.
He's describing the type of snake that could never have been.
There are big snakes, but this type that you're talking about is not. It can't be so big.
Right. And it was clear from what he was saying that he was referring to a fantasy that could never be possible. Okay, so those are the two types of Nedarim that we call Nidra Avoy. So Zok the Braisa, Tana, Nidra Avoy Mutarin. Nidra Avoy Mutarin, Shavuos Avoy Mutarin. And I'm reading the Girsa of the Ram. So not only is a Neder that's Avoyus Mutter, a Shavua would also be Mutter. Heichidami Shavuos Avoy. What would be a case of Shavuos Avoy? Ilema, if he said the following, I'm making a Shavua im loy re'isi b'derech hazeh. I'm making a Shavua if I didn't see Kiyoyta Mitzrayim coming out of this road. He didn't finish a sentence. You're making a Shavua that what? Made him come. He didn't say anything. Amar Abaye, no, you have to explain it more. The Amar Shavua Shari'isi. He stamped that I'm making a Shavua that I saw Kiyoyta Mitzrayim here. That's what we're talking about by Nidra Avoy. Amalei Rava, Zok Rava, Imkain, Lama Lila Meimar. I don't understand. Why do I need to tell me such a chiddush that if I said I made a shvua that I saw, what is the chiddush? Leimar, the Iyamidi, the Shaykh Beguzma, the Iyamidi, the Shaykh Beguzma, Bilchutkoi, she did the shvuas, Nami Mutaris. If we're talking about people speaking of Guzma, so of course, a shvu, if someone said, I saw Kiyoyt Mitzrayim, it's not a problem because that's how people speak. You can't just say that the case of Shvuah is parallel to the first case of the Mishnah, which was a Guzma. We're talking about both cases of the Mishnah. And in the second case, how could you say that Shvuah is mutter? You're swearing that you saw something that it's impossible that you've ever seen? And I'm going to tell you what the case of Shvuah is. It's similar to a case of Neder. Well, someone said, Yasru Peres Oilam Alai B'Shvuah. I'm making a Shvuah to answer all the pairs of the world on me. If I didn't see Koil Mitzrayim. So therefore, that Shvuah is mutter because we say that he didn't mean the Aser himself at all. Let's stop here and we will be Mamshech Mitzvah Mot Shabbos because we are running a little bit late. You know what? Let's go do another 2 lines because it's mamish in the middle of a sugya. Amalei Ravina Ravashi, who said that it's an exaggeration? The Dilma Hagavra Kina the Shum Shumi Chaza Va'asik Lahain Shema Oilam Mitzrayim. Maybe he saw an anthill and it was swarming with ants, and that's what he meant when he said Oilam Mitzrayim. V'Shaper Mishtaba, and maybe in fact it's a good shvuah and it's not Nidrei Havoy. And for the Gemara, because even when people make shvuas like that, they also conform to normal speech. And for the Gemara, Amar Lei, ki mishtaba adaita didon mishtaba. He's swearing the way normal people speak. And we don't think that when someone says, I saw a crowd, we don't assume that it's talking about ants. Amisha will pick up on here much Shabbos. I still have to provide more clarity on this Nidrei Avoy, so Mitchell much Shabbos will elaborate more on the sugya and we'll win DAF Lafay.
Shabbos, Yosy, to set up the screen.
I did not allow anybody to set up the screen yet.
Planning to go?
Go ahead, Yosy.
Shkoyach, shkoyach.